Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about using XchangeCore to move data that comes out of spreadsheets, comma-separated values is what that is. And today's topic, let's begin with a welcome around the country. Hope everybody has had a good last couple of weeks. It included the 4th of July. And let's just see whether anybody wants to introduce themselves as we build this XchangeCore community. I'd like people to have a chance to say hello, a second or two about what you're doing or what your particular interests are. So why don't we see whether there's anybody on from the West Coast? Anybody out west of the Rockies who would like to introduce themselves? Sorry, I talked over you. You can do that again. Good. All right. Anybody else out west? How about west of the Mississippi? All right. Anybody who isn't shy on the East Coast?
David Coggeshall, Golden Gate Safety Network.
Hey, David. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
This is Brian Dopp with Cobra Software.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Hi.
This is Will Corso with Ohio EMA.
Oh, glad you could join us. It's been a while since we've had a chance to talk. Anybody else like to introduce themselves?
Will Mova with Maryland Emergency Management.
Oh, great to hear from you again. All right. Well, what we're going to do today is talk very briefly about the XchangeCore operational concept and where spreadsheet data fits into that. Then go through how it works, the CSV connector that has recently been released, how you install it if you want to, but also describe the fact that XchangeCore community hosts a version of this that anyone can use. Talk a little bit about the configuration file that is really the magic that makes all of this happen and how easy that is for you to edit. Looking at how applications consume that data, and then talk about how you can get all of this and begin making use of it. So without any further ado, let's get started. Operational concept. You've seen this before. Multiple different sources of information up there in blue in defense departments, emergency management, public safety, private sector, and they produce lots of different types of information. That information comes as web services, sometimes non-web services, sometimes it's geospatial, sometimes it's not geospatial. XchangeCore doesn't care. You can consume all that different type of information, process it back into common operational data in a number of different standards, and then make that available to a whole range of tools and technologies, GIS and non-GIS technologies, that those groups in blue then use to create more information, thus creating this continual cycle of awareness and information. And spreadsheet is one important option on where that data comes from and how that data can be processed through XchangeCore and then make its way to those other applications. So if you have an application that isn't real happy to have information that is not exactly the way it wants, but it is connected to XchangeCore, WebEOC comes to mind, ArcGIS Online is another one that likes specific kinds of information. All that information, once it's processed through XchangeCore, becomes common operational data. It then can be ingested into all of those other applications. So that's the basic concept that we're going to be dealing with today. So we've got a CSV connector here. It sits there in the middle. My little gears indicate that it's going to squeeze and process stuff. And it does that based on what it is defined in that configuration file. Configuration file is just a simple text file. We're going to go through what commands are available in the configuration file, really delightfully well developed to be able to really bring in and apply that data in a number of different ways. So that sits there. As I mentioned, this is up, running, always available. You can let us know. We can give you a login to it, and it will then move the data to your XchangeCore for processing, or you can use one of the hosting cores here to process the data. So that's the basic setup that exists. What's added to that then becomes your CSV spreadsheet. Spreadsheet, plain old Excel spreadsheet, or any of the other products that you use, all of them have an option to save it as a common separated values, and that's what it is that gets ingested in there. It gets rid of all the formatting and all the funny little stuff that you can do to make an Excel spreadsheet look pretty. It cuts it down and says, here's the data, and that's all that we're interested in. So from that point, we then process it into XchangeCore, which automatically creates a work product, a NEAM-compliant work product. And this is one we use is commonly called the incident work product, but it's really an item of interest. And as we see later on, it can be a good thing or a bad thing. But it's that format. It's a NEAM-compliant set of data so that anybody who has had a consuming application that knows how to unfold a NEAM delivery work package, it's able to get that. So that work product is then exposed out to something like a WebUC, and that the connector to XchangeCore for WebUC will then grab that work product and put it into a list or a board inside of WebUC. Same thing for dispatch systems, Google Earth, ArcGIS Online, Spot on Response mobile app, lots and lots of different applications that are already connected. So the right-hand side you really don't worry about, because if you're already having and working with a connected application, CSV is just another form of the same work product that's already being brought in. There's no new mapping. There's no new work that you have to do. If you're using something that's already connected, then CSV connector turns that into exactly the information that you want to have. So let's take a look at the next step as we move along here, and that's installation. And I want to make an important note here that it's only if you want. The CSV connector uses the XchangeCore Apache Tomcat service to deploy as a web application. So this becomes a utility, really, that works right with the XchangeCore. A prerequisite, therefore, is that you have an XchangeCore successfully installed, and following that, the CSV connector is available to you. But if this is something that you're not going to do on a regular basis, or something you don't want to take on the burden of doing, and it's not a big burden, it's probably a 15-minute installation, the XchangeCore community is currently hosting this connector. So you can use that configuration file, and we'll talk about this later, to go off and use somebody else's connector, in this case the XchangeCore community, and then point it back to a different XchangeCore. That allows you to have complete control over what data passes through it without having to bother with the software itself. But the installation instructions, and we'll talk about how you get that and how you get the executable code at the end of this discussion. So now let's take a look at how all of this works. And I mentioned that it is based on a configuration file. So we're going to take a look at this configuration file. It has a couple of different categories. I'm going to unfold this and pull out all the information and describe for you exactly how it works. There are a whole lot of functions here. There's latitude and longitude because I want to put this someplace. There are filters because I want to select certain things out of a CSV file. There's an index because I need to create a unique identifier for each entry because this continually updates. You bring in a new CSV file, it's going to look at the information that it processed previously. If there's nothing on the new CSV file, it's going to delete it from XchangeCore. If anything has changed in the CSV file, it's going to update the record inside of XchangeCore. So you can use this as a real-time source of information to continually update XchangeCore. So we maintain that, either use or create a unique index. A couple of title items there. You're going to want to name this something. And there's the ability to connect the two things together, have a prefix and a dynamic title coming out of one of the columns. Same with the categories. You can select a column, you can add a prefix, or you can make a fixed category. And those columns are going to be, or those categories are important because it's one of the ways that you search for things based on the category. Description field, we'll talk more about that and some of the more technical information about where my XchangeCore is, how I get to it with the username and password, where I'm going to redirect back to a website if I've used a website to use this installation. And the last one that we're going to talk about is distance, and you'll see that because what we do is build a bounding box to create an alternative query inside of that spreadsheet to bring a second set of information into XchangeCore. And we'll talk about that as we come along in a minute. But those are the basic functions that exist inside of the connector that you control through this externally defined configuration file. So we start out with a spreadsheet. Here's a spreadsheet of one of our store partners that says, okay, I've got a number there, I've got a store type, I'm telling you the city, I've got some damage in there, I've got some comments, prior period and current period, and latitude and longitude. And the way that gets into XchangeCore is through that configuration file that interprets that CSV file. Now we're going to unfold each one of these elements. So we start out with the latitude and longitude. You'll note that that has to be a decimal value. Probably the only structured requirement that exists inside of the CSV adapter is that latitude and longitude be a decimal value. So item number one. Number two, the filtering. The reason to filter is because I may have a spreadsheet of all of my shelters, but I really don't care about the ones that are closed because I'm not doing anything with them. So I only want to see the shelters that are open. So what this allows me to do is to go in there and filter, comma, current status. You'll note that that matches the column heading up in the upper left-hand side. It's how you do the configuration. So if that happened to say current balloons, you would write current balloons in there, and that then is going to allow the CSV connector to interpret that column as current status or current balloons and go in and do a filter. I'm going to point you first to the one that has the little number sign in front of it, the filter text with the number sign in front that says open. Well, that's a filter that says I want to find everything that is open. So in that case of the shelters that we just discussed, if I have 1,000 shelters on here, and I want the 24 that have been opened out on the coast because I've got a hurricane coming. Those are going to be listed there as open, and my filter text is going to say, bring me only the open ones from this CSV file into XchangeCore. Dynamic way of doing it. So that can be opened, it can be closed, it can be purple, green, blue. Again, exactly what it is that you want to have. The filter text that's right above that, that doesn't have the little number sign next to it, means that it's active. If there's a number sign next to it, it means, hey, CSV connector, ignore this. This is just a note, and you'll see some notes as we come along here. So the one that doesn't have the number sign is the active one, and that one has an exclamation mark next to it and the word open. What the exclamation mark means in conventional querying is not. So this now is telling me, okay, I want to go in here and look in that current status, and I want to have the filter text, and I want it be everything that isn't open. In this case, these are stores. So if I have a store that's closed, I want to know that. If I have a store where they say not sure in the status, I want to know that. If I have a store that says open, but we don't have any ability to have refrigerated supplies, whatever the words are in there, if it's not open, it's going to display. So it gives me tremendous flexibility to find all the things that I want to find in that status field or in any column of information, because that's you can use this to be able to figure out the status component for putting into XchangeCore so that everybody knows what's happening at that particular location. So in this case, what it said is, okay, I'm a store. My current status, I have lots of statuses in there, and I want to tell you which stores are not open. So that's the filtering capabilities there. Gives you a lot of flexibility as you design the configuration file for the CSV injector. We go on to the next one. We're going to skip distance, come back to that later. The next one is the index. Now, you may have a specific index, a number. In this case, there's a unit number for these things. And you may or may not have that. Let's say that we're dealing with, let's go back to the shelters again. I'm dealing with the shelters, and the shelter is, somebody's church and somebody's YMCA and somebody else's. You may not have that unique identifier, but we're going to build an index. So that index might very well be the name that you've given that shelter. That would be fine. But what if you've got church as your type? And as you see up there, up in the upper corner over here, you've got 2 RSU auto centers. Well, I need to construct an index then. What I can do is, through putting together a series of these, and it's not illustrated here, I can build an index. So I could call it an RSU auto center that is in Buena Park, California. If I want to get really specific, I can say it's at this latitude and longitude. That's an internal process. You need to have something that's going to be unique. That use of the lat long is a very, very good addition to make it unique. So what we're doing there is building a unique identifier so that we can have a succession of CSV files that go into XchangeCore and then update all the other applications. As I mentioned before, I put 10 in the first time around. The second time around, I'm going to update that, and I've taken 2 of them off and added 3 more and changed 1. So what it's going to do, what the connector does, is go into XchangeCore and say, I've got these 2 that have disappeared, delete them from XchangeCore. I then have these 3 that are added, add those to XchangeCore. And I have this 1 that has been modified, use that unique identifier to go in and change that one to the current status. So very, very flexible, all based on that unique identifier. Next thing, there's a title. And this is the title that, when it comes out of the feed, for example, it shows up inside of Google Earth or ArcGIS Online or any of the other tools. And if you're bringing in out of one of the web service connections, it's going to be labeled as title, and you can put it anywhere you want to in your application. So what we're doing here is creating a title. And the title, first of all, in the first line there, title, comma, city, says, I'm picking this column to be in my title. And in this case, Buena Park, Westminster, that's going to be the title. But if I have a number of things up here and it pops up there as Buena Park, I'm going to be less interested in it because I want to know that it's a shelter or that it's a store or that it's a community center or whatever it is that you're doing. So what I do is then have it use the second line, the title prefix, to create a prefix to what is in that column. So in this case, it's Sears. So it's going to be Sears Holdings. It automatically inserts a little hyphen in there. And then it's going to say Buena Park. Next record will be Sears Holding, Westminster. It's going to go right down the list and Sears Holding and whatever is in that column. So it can be shelter dash, somebody's church, shelter dash somebody's community center. It can be farms. So you can say farms dash chicken supplier or farms dash, you get the picture. But it's the way to structure this so that I then have a way to make layers of data, whether I'm working with a WebUC or an E-team or whether I'm putting this on as a layer inside of a GIS. I'm able to structure some phrasing in my title prefix, have a variable component to it, and be able to give my end user the ability to look at something and say, I understand what's going on here. So, titles for each record, having a prefix, and allows you to move forward with that. Next one is the category columns. Category column is going to, again, allow me to select a category that's going to be used for the feed query in particular. It's used as part of all the other elements if you're picking it up as a web service connector, and you can use this category in any way if you want to, but it becomes the category used inside of the feed for a query. So, again, we've got a little number sign there, which tells me tells the connector I'm not going to use this. And it comes in, this is going to be a column that's used for the category, so it's category, current status. So we're up there under column H, and what it's going to do is use whatever information is in that every time it makes a record for all the data in one of those rows on this spreadsheet. So in this case, category is current status. Next thing is that I can have, again, just like we did there, a prefix. And the value of the prefix is then going to be stuck in front of the variable words that are in that current status column. So the category in this prefix is going to be Sears-closed. So I'm going to be very quickly able to look on my Google Earth and highlight that one, and it's going to pop up and it's going to say Sears closed, exactly what I need. Shelter open, exactly what I need. That's going to get me to the information that I want to have that's most obvious to help me make my decisions. Last piece is that if you don't have a variable category and you say, I want everything that comes out of this spreadsheet to be called shelter open, or everything that comes out to be tide gauge, exceeding. You're not going to add that variable category over on the right-hand side. This is a fixed category, and you simply type in what it is that you want this category to be, and it eliminates it. So if everything that I have in there is going to be a Sears open, I don't want to read the category, it'll be a Sears open, or it'll be a title gauge exceeding, or whatever the phrase you would have. So again, just more tools that sit inside of the CSV connector configuration that you can customize the data how it comes in. Now, the key element in customization is here in this next one, because this is a description. And if you were to look at just about any standard that exists for defining an incident, it's very unlikely that they're going to have a data field for damage or closing type, or for comments, or for prior period, or for my SHC unit number. Those things are really pretty specific. If I'm building a database, I want to know all those things. I'm going to build a database structure. All XchangeCore wants to do is move that information, and therefore we have something called other pesky data. Those of you who have been through the Quick Start guides know all about other pesky data. It says, gee, you know what? All these brilliant people have been out there working really hard to build a whole lot of standards, and I got some data that doesn't fit. What do I do with it? Well, XchangeCore says, listen, I love the standard. We're based on standards, but I need to be able to satisfy the unique needs of people who want to pass information from one application to another application. Employ the standard, but give some flexibility inside of the standard, because I'm going to have other pesky data all the time. Lots of the spreadsheet data is going to be other pesky data. What we do from an XchangeCore best practices that you can read about in the Quick Start guide is allow the wrapping of any type of data in an HTML format that gets inserted into a field, in this case the description field. Because it's an HTML format, applications know how to unwrap that data, and how to then display it. So by wrapping it in, we're effectively saying, okay, I've got this beautiful standard, the NEAM incident format that XchangeCore uses. I don't know where I'm going to put some of this data. Therefore, I'm going to put it into this field that we're all agreeing upon, wrap it in an HTML format, which is another standard. So I'm sort of putting an HTML format inside of the NEAM format in order to be able to move this other data that nobody thought about before from one place to another. The way that the CSV injector does that is it's description, comma, that's the standard format that we use to identify the field or the process that we're using. And you'll note, store type, period, SH unit number, period, city, period, state, period. Period means, first of all, the word means go up to that column. Every time you're going to create a record, go up to that column, bring me the data. The period means I'm then going to wrap it in an HTML format that's going to, we'll see in a minute, it's going to have a little brackets and a B and little brackets and a B and a slash and all the other things that HTML people know all about. So the dot means here's a field, wrap it in HTML. Here's a field, wrap it in HTML. Here's another one, wrap it in HTML. And that's going to allow me to put it inside of a standard format. It goes through XchangeCore. In a sense, hide it inside of one of those data elements and share it back out to anybody else who then looks at a HTML format and says, sure, I know what to do with that. So that's the really, really important component of how you can make completely variable spreadsheets. And we've done them, we worked with the Department of Interior on one on wildfires. There are probably 150 elements, columns in that format. We were able to wrap it all together, put it in a format, and display it beautifully. So, very, very clever way to do this. Next set of things are credentials. Down at the bottom, you're going to have to say where my XchangeCore is, how to get to it, using a password for it, and then it allows you, after the connector runs, it allows you to redirect it back to a web page if you wish. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's sort of, that's where you say, okay, Jim, I'm going to use the XchangeCore Communities connector, but I want to send it over to this other XchangeCore. That's where you describe all that, and again, it's all for your ability to do so. All right, now we want to go back to the distance, because distance is really fun, and when we look at the distance, you're then going to see the HTML formatting and all those things come together in a couple of other slides. So, distance. What we're doing here is, as it says, it's a distance for a bounding box. In this case, the distance is 40 kilometers. And that's saying that somewhere over there, I selected some stuff. And we did that up there in the filter text. In this case, it was the not open things. So I selected all of the not open information that came up there. Now I'm saying, all right, I've got all that not open stuff. What I want you to do is then build me a box 40 kilometers around all of the not open things. Because I want to go back to this data, look at it again, and say that current status now, if it's open and within those 40 kilometers, I want you to create another XchangeCore record. So picture the example. I've got, and this is from the National Multi-Level Exercise out there, I've got all those little red boxes in there that represent spheres that are closed. Okay? We did a geospatial analysis of that, found the maximum extent of those spheres that are not closed that are there, and then said, you know what I want to know? if I have a Sears that's closed there, I want to go find the closest open Sears. So I then build that next bounding box out there. It happens to be 40, that says 40 miles, sorry, it was 40 kilometers. And in that 40 kilometers, show me all the ones that are open. The ones that are outside of that bounding box and inside, because there may be a Sears down the street from something that is open, one that is open, and I want to be able to see those. Happen not to be any here, I don't see. But all the green ones out there, all the red ones in there, they have been done in one pass through. It says, here's the bad stuff that's happening, and here's where you can go to get some help to a good thing, something that's still open. So let's go back to the shelters. All right, have all these shelters that happen to be open within, since you're not going to move shelter people 40 miles, maybe it's 10 kilometers. Here's my set of shelters. These are the ones that are open. I'm starting to reach capacity. Now show me the ones that are within 10 miles of that, because I may have to start opening those up. Now, you're going to be doing that in other ways, so don't think that I'm trying to sell you this as your shelter management tool. But what it's going to allow you to do is, as you're making those considerations, if you're sharing those with XchangeCore, XchangeCore is going out to multiple other agencies, multiple other jurisdictions, you're going to be able to say, you know what, these are open. These are the nearby ones that are closed. So if you are thinking about anything and you're thinking that maybe there's another shelter that ought to be open, here's at least a list of the ones that we are maybe considering because they're nearby that we would be opening. Same way with the stores. I've got all these stores here. Somebody absolutely has to get Sears to get my lawnmower repaired. Mine is closed. Where's the closest one that's open? Really nice way to be able to have two different dimensions, not just the bad stuff, but my beginning of the resolution of my problem to be able to get the information out and share it to everybody else. So what we've done is taken that CSV spreadsheet, thrown it at the connector down in the center, which reaches out to the configuration file, and that together the two of them decide exactly what's going to get moved to XchangeCore. It gets turned into that work product, creates the work product, and this is just an illustration of what a NEAM incident work product looks like, and all the information gets mapped into the right places, latitude, longitude, and all the other things. Plus, we talked about that ability to move it then out to all the other connected applications. If they're already reading that NEAM incident work product from XchangeCore, they're now getting that CSV data, and every update of the CSV data that you have is getting pushed out to all of those other applications. That other Pesky data that we talked to, I've blown that up out of this page so that you can take a look at it. And if you go down there, third line, it has the little exclamation mark and then C data all in caps. That is the HTML format description that says, or the XML format description that says ignore what follows. And then the BRs and the Bs and all that, those are the HTML formats that tell me, all right, give me a line there, turn it into bold, give me the word store type that came right off of the heading that we saw on that spreadsheet, and then give me the word Sears is going to be the store type, and then give me the next one, the SH unit number. Well, the next thing is 1321, so that's coming out right out of the rows that you saw there. What city is it? Peoria. State is Illinois. The damage or closing type is a tornado, or a tornado in that case. All the information, loss of power, sign damage, all the other things that are part of the description in that spreadsheet now become part of the work product wrapped in HTML formatting that then allows it to get pushed out and consumed by, on the top one, ArcGIS Online. And there you see SH number, city, store, damage type, comments, all the things that are nicely formatted. And without that Pesky data, HTML formatting in there, this wouldn't work. You wouldn't know where to put the data, and the consuming application, if you did something special, wouldn't know what to do with it either. So here, we're taking advantage of the fact that HTML is a common standard. Applications read it. One down at the bottom, I've got Google Earth, that one is, and there you see similar kind of information. Here's something coming out of Target, and I've got my operational status and my facility damage and all the other information exactly as it appeared on the spreadsheet. And then the other one, the spot-on response mobile app, doing the same thing. So it's those consuming applications that do a great job of being able to consume the XchangeCore work product, process it into its own format, use the data in the HTML format as display, and be able to get an end-to-end from your spreadsheet to their application ability to move that data. A couple things, and here we'll open up for questions at this point. Reference document here, the CSV connector installation. And user guide, you can get it going onto XchangeCore.org, go to the Exchange Code tab, and under Documents and Training. If you want to request the executable code for that, inside the XchangeCore.org, there's a Request the Software tab. If you fill that out, click on the connector code, and make your request in the notes there. And that'll work its way through the system, and we'll be able to get that out to you and on how to download that directly. The other side, and this is part of the new XchangeCore, everything that gets done becomes example code. The XchangeCore GitHub section, you see up in the top, the connector code has been all checked in. It's available. You have to register and be approved in order to get it down. But once you do that, you have full access to the GitHub XchangeCore, and you can pull the code out of that because you might very well want to read something else. You might have a different kind of data, and you can take all the code from that does all the hard work getting into XchangeCore, and you can just take the first portion of that maps to a CSV file and map it out to, pick another format. And be able to bring that information in. So it's a really beautiful piece of software, and it allows you to do an awful lot with XchangeCore from external data sources. So that's available for you as well. But the executable side, if you just want to run it, and if you want to play with it and learn more about it, you've got that on GitHub, and you can go up there, and you have to sign into GitHub for you to be able to do that, so you'll register for GitHub. No approvals necessary. And with that, let me stop and open it up for questions.
Hi, Jim. This is Phil Balin, local government, and I was curious if some of your stores might comment on whether they've gone beyond just showing whether a store is open or not and gone to what kind of resources in terms of emergency supplies, water, batteries, things like that. I'm just interested in what the next steps are that have been thought about. Is that something you could talk about?
Well, let's see whether we have any stores on the call who would want to comment on that. Okay, then from my association with Sabre, the single automated business exchange for reporting, I'll give you an update on that. Sabre is run by an organizing committee of half a dozen of the biggest retailers and others. And what is contained in each one of those spreadsheets is up to the store. And that's why it's other pesky data, because we have no idea what it's going to be. Some of them have done a very nice job of giving information about their status, whether they're on generator power, whether they have freezers in place, and some other things like that. None of them so far have gone and said, gee, here are the things I can give you that might be emergency supply kind of things. I think probably for two reasons. One, everybody's just learning this process. And I think, as you say, a next step could very well be for the Sabre organizing committee to say, all right, here's a list of 10 emergency supplies. If you can tell us whether you can offer those, it would be really helpful. Stick that in one of your columns and put it out as other Pesky data. So I think that probably remains a Sabre organizing group, or perhaps even at local government if you're dealing with a store that wants to move data through Sabre and XchangeCore. Tell them to do that, and then we have an example of a store that's willing to do that and provide that kind of information. So I think it's really more a case of motivation at this point, getting more familiar with it. Certainly from the example, actually, I'm going to go back here because how do I get back there? Yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to hit something else. All right. There we go. Page up. Where was that? Yes, in here, I was just looking at the comments that were put in here. No windows missing, some are cracked, they got lost power, signage damage, collapsed parking lot lights, debris blocking the entrance, loss of HVAC. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we were to, we being Sabre or some units of government, go out and say, gee, when you put your comments in, here are 10 really useful supplies, and if you could tell us whether you have lots of those available, that would be useful. I think we could start a little movement on that. And Phil, since you're always offering good ideas, I'm always offering you to do things. If you had a list of the top 10 supplies that you as local government or people who come to local government would want, I definitely throw that up onto the Sabre website, and we'll discuss it in one of our next Sabre meetings. Maybe I can have you come in and just give a couple minutes about the value of this, and let's see whether people start doing it. That's a good idea.
Be happy to. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else with questions or thoughts? All right, then let me wish you all an excellent couple of weeks. This is a really valuable tool. And for those of you already playing with XchangeCore, using it in various applications, this is one more thing to put in your arsenal. As well as those of you who are considering it and say, gee, what data would I possibly put in there? Well, now this opens it up to a whole new range of data and things that you can get out of a big system, export into a spreadsheet and then upload it and share it to everybody else, or things that you might just want to put in one time. Always want to have a list of all my I'll use shelters again in there, all my hospitals. Always want to have a list of all my hospitals sitting inside of XchangeCore. XchangeCore is more transactional because you're going to want to only really use that when a hospital has a problem or it is opening up a certain number of beds for burn care or whatever. But it would allow you to structure all that in advance, have it ready, be able to have somebody sitting there on a spreadsheet just saying, oh, we heard from this hospital, yes, we heard from this hospital, closed, we heard from this hospital, 50 burn beds, we heard from this hospital, something else, and know that that's going to get pushed up, put into whatever other application you have, and particularly your other neighboring applications. So if you're just starting out in this emergency management automation and spreadsheets are your way to go, bingo, this is your way to then push that information out to other more sophisticated applications and make it part of the whole management process. So with that, I'll say thanks to everybody. Hope you have all had a excellent session here and look forward to talking with you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.